sometimes things just suck. You can do all the right things and everything goes wrong. But what's going to make you stronger is how you respond. You know, is whether you're going to give up or whether you're going to get back up and keep moving on.
Hello, welcome back to another episode of Initial Impressions. My name is Kayli Pommering and I'll be your host today. As always, this podcast is dedicated to helping you feel more at peace and becoming the best version of yourself. Today, I'm very excited and grateful to be here with one of my really good friends. He is a native from Dayton, Ohio, which I actually just found out. I did not know that prior to preparing for this episode. He is an entrepreneur, philanthropist, and just a really interesting guy. His name is Gabe Henry, and we met just over a year and a half ago.
That's about right. Yeah.
So you're back in the city.
I'm happy to be back. Yeah. I'm excited to be back. You know, it's been about 4 months I think since I left. So.
Yeah. Dang, has it really been that long?
Oh yeah, it's been because that was like back in end of July. That's when I left, right? Yeah, end of July.
Mm-hmm. I feel like I haven't seen you in a minute, so I guess that makes sense.
Time flies. You know?
Absolutely. We met actually through Renaissance Society, which is definitely something that I want to touch on today.
Yeah.
We met, I guess that was for the modeling game?
Well, it was
a little bit prior to that too.
Yeah, no, so it's kind of funny because I actually remember the place where we were at. It was Queen City.
Oh, yeah.
Queen City, yeah.
That's right.
And I could sense, like, you know what? Like, I have a feeling like, you know, just, we're going to click, you know? And then you got invited to our first event, actually.
Uh-huh.
It was the at Rhine Guys.
Right.
It was back in May of last year.
Yeah, networking event.
Yeah. It was like a mixer, whatever you want to call it, you know. And
I almost didn't go to that too because I had worked a really, really long bartending shift that day, and I was really tired. But I was like, you know what, like. First of all, I had a premonition as I was walking into Queen City Exchange that day, which is where I worked at the time. And I knew that I was going to meet some people that were going to change my life. I knew that. First, I literally, I know it sounds crazy, whatever, but I swear I thought that when I walked into QCE that day. And then I met you guys, and you invited me to that event, and I had been, wanting a change so bad. I really wanted to do more for my personal career and expand and grow, and I was in the middle of launching my podcast and everything. I just launched it. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to go because I feel like I'm going to meet some cool people.
Yeah.
And that really was the beginning of something for me, for sure. I was really glad to meet you guys and be a part of the Renaissance Society. So could you tell me a little bit about the Renaissance Society, about why you started it and what its purpose was?
Yeah. So I would say back in high school, back in high school, you're not really concerned about the world around you, right? Mm-hmm. And I would say going into my senior year, I started to really think about things. And I started to pay attention to people. And what I've noticed is, man, we're getting further and further away from having genuine human connection. Mm-hmm. You know, I feel like humanity was just kind of going by the wayside. You know, nobody looks at each other in the eye anymore. Yeah. People are just constantly on their phones. If you go say hi to somebody, look at you like it's weird. Like, why are you talking to me? You know, I started to notice the big change. You know, I grew up in the early '90s, so I remember how things were back then, and how things started to progress. You know, I'm just like, man, things are changing rapidly. You know, and when I started to see that, I was like, man, I think that down the road things are going to get so challenging socially that there's going to be an increase of depression, of wealth disparity. There's going to be an increase of just all the things that we don't want because of that. And so as I get into college, you know, I had my problems. I had a hard time building connections myself, partly because of some of the health problems that I had. I had a chronic insomnia. Those that know me well, they know I've had that for 8 years.
Really?
Yeah, I had chronic insomnia. It affected my ability to learn, speak.
Wow. Was that your whole life, or did that start later?
It started 8th grade. Yeah.
Interesting.
I had an 8th grade, you know, and I had a horrible stutter for I used to get made fun of all the time.
Really?
Yeah, I used to get made fun of it, and I used to beg people to help me out on some of the simplest tasks. You know, only I could do was play football. I was like, I better make it in football because I didn't have to have any social skills when I played football. You know, because people just want to talk to you because you're an athlete. You know what I'm saying? So that was my identity. You know, I loved football. And as when I went to college, you know, eventually I had to give it up because my body was just failing me. I got hurt. I never fully recovered. I had hip surgery on my left hip. I never fully recovered from it, and I knew I had to give it up. And that was a turning point in my life where, like, dude, I'm going to have to figure out how to use my brain. You know, I'm going to have to figure out how to really make it beyond just sports. Like, I'm really going to have to develop my social skills so that I can...
You couldn't coast through with your, like,
Yeah.
natural skills anymore.
Yeah.
Had to acquire some new ones.
I can't no longer just say, yeah, what's up? I play football.
Yeah.
That's
That's
like,
not good
nah,
enough anymore.
it's not good enough anymore. It used to be. I miss those days. Those were fun, you know. But
Yeah.
I
can
knew.
imagine that was like a little bit of an identity crisis.
Yeah, I was like, why am I here? What am I doing? You know, and then, like, I would say probably I got really fortunate and blessed. Like, I want to say my junior year of college is when my body started to, I just started sleeping. Like, my body just kind of naturally corrected itself. You know, I took medication to try to help me sleep.
Do you feel like it was something, like, what do you feel like was the cause of the insomnia?
I don't know what the cause of
it. Like stress induced?
Nah, I don't think it's. I just think it was just something that was just wrong, you know, whatever it was.
Interesting.
And you know, I took sleeping pills and stuff like that. It made it worse, so I stopped taking it.
Man.
And then I started to pay attention to, like, my diet, and I started to pay attention to every little thing, like, you know. But I call those 8 years that I've had insomnia, like, a blessing and a curse, because it was a curse. It sucked, but it was a blessing because a lot of these ideas that I have now spurred from those times.
Interesting. Your brain didn't
because I remember I was just thinking, like, everything,
was
like,
working overtime.
Yeah, I was like, why am I here? Like, why did this person act this way? I started questioning everything, the behavior of people. Like, why did they move this? Why did I look this way when I said that?
Yeah.
You know, did I offend them? How did I defend them? Or how did I offend them? You know, what are the patterns that I'm starting to notice when people communicate, and if that affect others' emotions, and others may not realize it? I started thinking about all those things.
Yeah.
You know, and that, I think, really has helped me a lot, actually. I really do.
And that was, like, during a time period where, like, you were kind of struggling in your communication with other people? You were just kind of, like, in this state of
observing and thinking nonstop.
Yeah.
Just nonstop thinking.
Yeah.
I couldn't focus.
Overthinking.
Yeah. I was
That's
questioning.
crazy.
Yeah. Like, there's times where I'm just like, my eyes are open, the sun was right. I've been up all night, I'm out, and the sun just rises, and I'm like, well, guess I gotta get up. You know?
My goodness, insomnia, like, literally no sleep.
Yeah, chronic insomnia. It was very bad. You know, that's why it affected my ability to learn and, you know, do things. But
kidding.
But when I would say it was like, I think it was my junior year. There was like one time where I actually fell asleep, and I woke up and I felt like this insane happiness I've ever felt in my life. It was like the first time I've slept. Like, I got actual genuine restful sleep. You know,
You were rejuvenated.
Yeah, I felt amazing, and everyone that knew me was like, "Hey, something's different about you. Did you sleep last night?" He's like, "Yeah, I did. Like, I feel great. Like, everything's normal. Like, I'm so happy, you know."
And then from there, you were sleeping normal?
It was off and on. Like,
Okay.
that was when I first got some restful sleep. It was like my junior year or something like that, and
right as your body gave up.
and like, wait, what's the question?
Like, right as your body gave up on football? You started.
It took. I would
like
say about maybe about a year and a half to 2 years. It was when after I gave up football is when I started to feel like a lot better. Actually, maybe it was football. I don't know. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe it was all the hits to the
Maybe
head.
Your body was overactive.
Yeah, our conditioning was pretty crazy. I'm
Yeah.
gonna lie. We used to condition like crazy back in
That was it.
back in high school. Well, I had it before then, but like I had it a year before I went to high school. But yeah, we used to run like crazy. Like, I'm talking like we can condition sometimes for like 3 or 4 hours.
That's
you know?
insane.
Yeah, like, but that was a blessing and a curse. It was a curse because it sucked, but it was a blessing because it kind of just make you more resilient. You know, when you work out, you can feel a little uncomfortability, but you don't quit. You know, so.
And that principle can apply to literally so many areas of your life where most people would quit, and you know you have it in you to, like, go a little longer, push a little harder. You know?
Absolutely.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So, this dream for the society, that all started long time ago.
Oh, sorry, I got off track. So
No,
let me
it's
get
okay.
that.
It happens.
Yeah. So, well, that's where it stemmed from in terms of I started to notice changes in, like, people, like, it's hard to make new connections and all the things. And then I get to college, and then I'm like, man, I wish there was something, you know, I could do to bring people together. People that are like-minded, you know, people that want to make the world a better place, leave it better than they found it. And I'm like, how can I do that? You know, and then the things I've thought about is like, okay, well, what makes people happy? People want to be loved. People want to have purpose, and people want to feel like they're doing something that will give them, you know, a legacy. You know, something that's meaningful. You know, like when they close their eyes, take their last breath, then like, hey, I know I left this place better than I found it. And I know that these group of people or whoever organization that I've helped, they're going to remember that. And they're going to tell that story, and they're going to hopefully help somebody else, you know.
Yeah.
So, like, those are the things I thought about. And I was like, okay, well, how can I, you know, create something or collaborate with somebody to make this, you know, come to life, you know? Because after college, it's really hard to find, it's even harder to find new connections and friends. Yeah. Only way you're really going to do it is through work. And outside of that, I mean, good luck. Go find a dating app and see how that works out for you.
Yeah.
You know, and oh, you're gonna ask something.
I was just gonna say, definitely socializing can be hard, especially like when a lot of the everyday things that most people in our age are like encouraged to do aren't really producing those types of like stimulating conversations. Like going out and everything can be fun, but it's not. You don't usually get the same like level of connections or get an opportunity to have like a real conversation. It's like it seems like people are so automated, or they're just literally, like you said, not even talking at all. So it's just, that's the one thing I did notice about the society immediately was like, oh, we're like having real conversations, like, and I loved that. Like I loved having the real conversations, and just people actually wanting to collaborate, like actually wanting to make something. So I think that was like a really beautiful outcome out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's when I really started to think of, okay, well, I need to create something like a society. You know, what makes up society? People, things, beliefs, behaviors, all those things, you know? And so I'm like, okay, well, if I'm making a society, how do I want people to, like, what are the kind of people I'm looking for? What are the kind of people that I want to represent the society? And I'm looking for people that are, you know, that are creative, people that like to help people that are like entrepreneurial or inspired to just do something bigger than themselves, and people that understand that, hey, we're only here for a limited time, you know, we're not perfect, and that's okay, you know. Let's do the best, let's do the best we can and try to be the best version of ourselves. And so that's how Renaissance Society was born, and that's how the mission statement was born, is to drive creativity, prosperity, and the advancement of the human condition. So that's how it happened.
Yeah, I definitely feel like it's been on the track to do that for sure.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of honestly, there are untold effects for real of the society on how that benefited my business and like my expansion, and just gave me opportunities to put in the work and actually connect with people where I can see some amazing results come out of it. And it's definitely been a privilege that it worked out that way. Some of my best friends have come from that, so it's a beautiful thing. Something you thought of when you were in high school definitely impacted like a lot of people. That's really cool.
Yeah, I'll say it started in high school. I thought of it in college.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the vision of it is it was incubating. And then college was like when it really came out. I was like, yeah, this is what I'm gonna do. But I'm not ready yet because I have no money. So I'm gonna wait, and I don't know anybody. So let me just figure out my social skills first and figure out life. And this is actually a good transition. You know, I'm just telling you a little bit about my background. So like you said earlier, I grew up in Dayton, Ohio, but I moved around a little bit. You know, went to the University of Kentucky, studied kinesiology, exercise science. I thought I wanted to be a doctor, but when I saw how much more student loans that I had to add in addition to already had out, I said, yeah, I'm not doing that.
Did you know we had that in common?
Really?
I was a biomed major. I also
no
wanted
way.
to be a doctor. Yeah.
I didn't know that. No.
Actually, every time we talk, I'm always thinking, me and Gabe actually have a lot in common.
Yeah.
What we want to do, what we want to create, how we want to impact the world, some of our background even. So that was funny. And then also, I find out you were an audio engineer today, which also convenient timing considering I was having technical difficulties before this. But when did you have time to become an audio engineer? When did that happen?
Well, I would say audio engineering is like a subset of really what I'm actually an artist, but I had to do all those things to figure out, not how to spend thousands of dollars, which I ended up doing anyways. Because recording music, I was like, I'm freaking broke, So then I was like, how can I just not do this again? So I started doing music since I was like, 7 or 8 years old.
Yeah, that was another like hidden part of you. You're like one of those people who like you don't really have all the cards out all the time. So like I had known you for like months before I knew that you made music. Somebody was like, "Oh yeah, he's on this track," and I was like, "Huh? What?" And I was like, "Wait, that's actually really good." I was like, "Wait, hold up, he's got an accent now."
Yeah. Oh, that track recorded in South Africa.
Yeah,
that's funny.
Good though. It was good though. I was like, okay.
I was just making it for fun. I just make music for fun now. I used to take
Yeah.
it very serious, you know. Like I used to travel to Cali a lot, record.
Really?
Yeah, like I have some friends that are still very much into, you know, the music stuff. And I actually made a song for a commercial. Actually, you know, Giovanni Fashions.
Yes.
I actually produced like a little small snippet of track for them. Like,
Okay.
yeah, there's like I think the commercial's still somewhere on YouTube. Actually, I think I'll have to go find it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I've done that, and then. Yeah, I mean, I've always liked music. Classical music actually was my first love. That's my first music I've learned, you know.
I love classical music.
Yeah, so that's a little bit about my interests. And well, one thing I will say too, in addition to music, is I love to travel.
Yeah.
I love to travel, which I think you knew that already. But
yeah, I mean, you traveled recently. What was it like the last year? You traveled for like a missions trip.
Yeah. So it was this organization called Volunteer HQ, which I found about in college.
Okay.
I was just too broke to ever afford to go, but
full circle.
Yeah, and it's kind of ironic. It was right around the time when I was thinking of the idea of Renaissance Society. I was like, man, I would love to go on one of these trips, and look at what happens. You know, some of the artist folks goes. You know, we go to Cape Town and we help like little kids in grade school or kindergarten, first grade, whatever. Help them teach English, help them with this basic task and everything. And that was a really great trip. We were there for about like 8 days or 9 days. And I took, who did I take? I took Astrid, I took Braden Shows, and a friend from Colombia. And because I was like, they'll never get this opportunity. Like, right now, they'll never get this opportunity. So I was like, come do this mission trip. I know it'll change your life. It'll just show you how little and insignificant we are. Which, it might feel like, that might make you feel like some discomfort, but I think it should make you feel comfortable because, like, wow, there's so much out there to learn. There's so much out there to see. There's so much opportunity for me to grow as a person,
Yeah.
And so that's what I think that opportunity really was for everyone to really come together and, just see the world in a different lens and see how happy some of these folks are with much less, you know.
That's like no joke too. It's very much altering your. I didn't go to the same location, but my senior year of high school, I also went on a mission trip to southern Mexico, and we were like way up in the mountains, and man, it was insane. Like in so many ways, there was so much poverty, but they were happy with so little, and I feel like they had their priorities more in line in a way. Their connections, their family, like that mattered the most. And also the nature was stunning. And like they may not have the same type of wealth, but there is another type of wealth here. And I mean, I just remember everywhere we went, I was like, it's absolutely stunning. Like it just, everything was so pretty. The nature out there was beautiful. But I'm a big nature person. I love traveling as well. I love to see, just how the world can be different in different places. I think it's very fascinating. But I do feel like it is a life-altering experience to go and do that. Do you have any plans for doing anything like that in the future?
Oh, absolutely. Like my goal is to take more people to different mission trips. Like
I would love to come.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd be happy to have you. Yeah.
I haven't gone in a long time.
Yeah. Like I do want to go back to Cape Town actually next year if the opportunity presents itself. And there's a lot of different things going on that might influence that, but if not next year, definitely the year after that. I want to make sure that I take as many people as I can with me, to come. And we got connections there now, so we can just hit the people up and let them know we're coming, and they'll take care of us.
Yeah, so. Much better when you're going to another country to have connections.
Yeah.
It's a little bit scarier to go when you don't know anyone.
I will say this, though. We'll get this opportunity to travel. There'll be other opportunities to travel internationally as a group beyond just doing mission trips. I didn't mention this before, but I do plan on, hosting events internationally. I do want to make sure Renaissance Society becomes an international brand. So that that's always been the game plan, was to do different things all over the globe. I haven't traveled everywhere, I've traveled to a lot of different countries, and I've got a good eye of what I like and what I would love to do, and where I think other people want to collaborate at. So, down the road, I see that happening in the near future, actually. So.
A lot of the things that you have been incubating since high school,
Yeah.
and I got to see a lot of them come into fruition in the last year and a half. Tell me about some of the challenges you faced actually getting these things off the ground, out of your head and into your physical reality.
Yeah, so I'm gonna bring up the perfect person that will remember this. Brandon shows, aka TV shows. So I met shows back in 2017 or 18. I want to say, let's just say 2018. So little over 6 years ago, and I told him man, I want to I already knew what I was gonna do with Red South Society, but I just didn't figure out how I was gonna bring everything together. And I was like, man, I really want to throw an event. Because I'm a creative person. I want to throw an event. I want to host a gala.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't call it a gala. I want to host an event where there's a fashion show, there's music, there's art, there's a cocktail hour, there's mingling. It's like, I'm going to do that. And then 4 years go by. Hey, I'm ready. Let's do it. Yeah, let's go. Or 4 or 5 years ago, let's, I'm planning it out. Let's do it. We're going to Chicago. We're going to do this photo shoot. We're going to get all this content. And we're going to, in preparation for the the launch of the brand and the gala, whatever, and we just Izzy, Izzy, I didn't know who she was at the time, you know what I'm saying, shows just knew her from he just knew her from a past modeling thing that she helped him get, so he's like, you know what, come to Chicago, we got some people together, some of my friends together, and we did a photo shoot. That's where I really knew I was just like, this is really about to happen, and I really gotta get my stuff together. And the challenges, I would say, that came from that all was probably just finding the right people. Finding the right people and getting them actually to believe what you're saying. Because most people say stuff all the time, they're not gonna actually go through with it, So
as you were having these conversations with people, and you deal, like everyone does, with people who just don't see the vision,
yeah.
How do you handle that? How does your ego take that? And how do you move past other people not being able to see your vision and trust the process? How have you been able to do that?
I'm going to answer this, and I'm probably getting a little ahead of myself, but I'm going to answer this I'm going to answer that question with how I view things in terms of mindset.
Okay.
One thing that I've noticed too, going back to high school when I was looking at people, and people start to become more delusional and not be accepting of the realities, good or bad. And one thing I realized, hey, life, this planet has over 8 billion people here. 99.999% of them will never know who I am or who you are. They'll never care if I'm having a good day or a bad day. They're not going to care when I die, and that's okay. That's a harsh reality. That sounds very mean and lonely, but it's the truth. Every breath that we take, we get closer to our death. We're on a clock. No one knows when the clock runs out. That's a harsh reality that people don't really understand. But when you truly, it's simple to understand it, but it's a harsh reality that people they don't choose to accept it. And when you start to think that way, then you start to know, okay, well, I also don't know these other 8 billion people on the planet, so why should I care what they think about me?
Yeah.
Why should I care why should I care about that? Because they're not paying my bills. They're not responsible for producing energy in the body, ATP in my body.
Yeah.
I'm responsible for that. I got to find the food so that my body can produce energy.
Yeah.
Taking it back to exercise science.
I know people put that.
But
I remember the little ATP demonstrations.
Yeah, they're not the ones that are feeding my body and my soul. I have to make that happen. So it really starts with this accepting, the harsh truths, good or bad, accepting the weaknesses and strengths that you have, and then building off that. That's how you overcome all the noise. Yeah. The distractions. You know what I'm saying? So
I'm not saying it in I don't think this is possible, but how do you believe in the delusionality of your dreams? How when other people will tell you that they're not realistic because you haven't been there, or you haven't done this, or you haven't seen this yet, and you had never put on a fashion show, you weren't a designer, you're not super heavily into the fashion industry, and people could have definitely told you you don't know anything about this, How do you tune out the other people, how do you know that you can make anything happen? Like, how do you believe that despite your lack of expertise in things? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Here's what I would say. Anything another human being could do or have done, you can do. Some people won't get there, though, because they'll either sabotage themselves, they won't believe in themselves, or they'll never take a chance. So the way that I overcome it is like, okay, well, I look things in a more like I'd say kind of in a technical way. My background is in technology. You know what I'm saying? So like I think, and my background's in science too. So like I think about everything in almost like in a science way, like a formula. So I look at things. So it's gonna be very funny. So I was like, people would say, oh, this person they're a great designer and she looks amazing in this dress. I'm like, well, why is that? Like, what's the color? Like, I try to look at like things I can extract. What are the dimensions that I can extract from this person? What's their skin color? Their skin color's light. What are they wearing? A darker dress, because it typically looks better, right? You don't want to have a light skin, very pale skin, and a very pale looking dress. It's too much, too bright. So I was like, okay, that's one thing I noticed. And then I started thinking about body shape, and I started picking apart every little thing. Like, I did it in the most, I would say, boring way possible, but I did it in a way where it's like a science.
Yeah.
That's really how I did it, honestly.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, but that mindset can apply to anything. If you know how to think, if you're able to break things down into smaller problems and look at, if you're able to have references is beautiful. You'll be able to, because everyone learns from each other. We all steal from each other all the time. People like Elon Musk, the folks out there, they are benefiting from the work of thousands and thousands of other people. Over time. They are brilliant in their own right. But I'm just saying,
we all build upon each other.
Yeah, we all build upon each other. We all need each other, and that's the way I overcome this challenge. I try to break things apart, think about it, look at it, and dissect it, and devise a plan and go from there. Because I have no experience. I've never done ever. Some people didn't know that, but I've never done anything like that.
Yeah.
So,
I love that. Everything always seems way more daunting when it's like full scale, when you're looking at things like really zoomed out or far in the future, like thinking about doing that and you're just thinking about the end result. That can seem daunting, but I like what you're saying. You broke it down into like its smallest components, bite-sized things, analyzed them, and then you trusted, if anybody else can do this, why can't I do this? I think that's really a powerful thing. One thing you mentioned, though, while you were talking that I wanted to ask you about was you were saying that people struggle with self-sabotaging. How has that came up for you in the past? Like, have you ever had an issue with that, and what did you do to overcome that?
No, I don't. Actually, I don't think I've ever had. I don't think I ever had an issue with that. Actually.
Really?
No, I don't think I have, because when you're a realist, you realize they're all just dirt, and like nobody's above. It's the humility that's the reason why. Because I understand, like, hey, no matter what I do, no matter how successful I become, I'm still not no better than anybody else.
Yeah.
And so when I look at somebody else, like, oh, he did all these great things, like, fine, he might be better at this particular thing than me, but he's not a better human being than me. I'm not a better human being than anyone, whether it's a homeless person or some, insanely rich billionaire, like, we're all the same,
Okay.
That's why I say we're all the same, because at the end of the day, we pay taxes, we die, and life goes on.
Yeah.
That's simple.
Yeah. Essentially, like, if I'm hearing you correct, like, we're all worth the same, so why would I sabotage myself from doing what I I feel like I'm supposed to do?
Yeah, it is. Like, why would I stop myself from trying to be the best version of myself, Like, I'm not going to be the best person out there in the world at what I do. There's always going to be somebody better. All I can do is try to be the best person I can be. If that happens to be the best person in the world at the time, great. Highly unlikely, but let's be real. But if that happens, awesome. But I'm not thinking about, oh, I have to be better than every single person that's walked this planet Earth. That's not realistic. There's always going to be somebody better.
Yeah.
Always, because you know why? The person that comes after you is going to learn and see the mistakes you did. He's like, oh, I'm not doing that. Okay, I'm going to build off that. I'm going to build off of I'm going to look at the data. I'm going to look and see how I can improve.
Yeah.
So that's just the way I think about it. That's why I haven't really thought about self-sabotaging, because why do that? Yeah. That's
awesome. I would not say that I have mastered that totally yet. Still working on that one. I think sometimes I think like you were saying, it's common for most people who struggle with self-sabotage because there's this sometimes there can be a worthiness component or like a fear of failure. Have you ever been like afraid of failure?
Oh, everyone's been afraid of failure.
Okay.
Oh my God. Oh yeah.
So-
I'm human. I'm definitely been afraid of
Like,
failure. Yeah, I'm not
you
freaking.
self-sabotage.
Oh
You
yeah.
have a
Oh,
fear of failure.
absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, that's very
I was gonna
important.
say, I was testing. I was like, I know you're
Yeah.
technological, but
That's but you know, as they say, if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. You know, that's something that's always stuck with me. You know, you have to break things down. You have to look at what's actually practical, not what you feel is practical. What's actually practical, you know? If you're saying to somebody, hey, I want to be a doctor in the next 15 years, great. That's realistic, you know? But if you're saying, hey, well, I want to be a doctor in the next 15 years, but I don't want to study. I don't want to go to med school. Don't want to take the prereqs. You're never going to be a doctor. That's not realistic, you know?
Yeah.
And I know it's a very oversimplification of it,
Right,
but
it's
I'm just saying, yeah, like you have to actually come up with a practical plan, and you actually have to go through with it, you know?
Okay.
So
do you feel like maybe then failure isn't quite as daunting because you're not really putting yourself in a position where you're expecting a success that's so far than like what's reachable? Does that make sense?
yeah, it makes sense.
At least like for the next steps.
I don't know. I would say like here's the thing. Like I'm not trying to solve world hunger, which I would be nice if I could, but
Yeah.
like you know, a lot of this tasks that we have, they're so minute compared to the world problems that are out there, right there. You know.
Yeah.
Like so, if I'm thinking about I need to make sure that I crush my quota as a sales rep. Like back when I did sales, hardware sales at Hewlett Packard Enterprise. I'm thinking about it and I'm just like, hey, like I know I can fail, but let's be realistic. Life's gonna go on. I'm gonna be okay. Like my heart's gonna still keep beating.
Like it's not the
Yeah. I'm not gonna drop dead if I miss my thing.
Yeah.
But all I can do is do my best. If I do my best and it doesn't work out, I'm okay. And here's one key thing that I want to make sure listeners remember. Sometimes things just suck. That's one important lesson I learned very early on in my life. Sometimes things just suck. And what I mean by that is sometimes everything's just gonna go wrong. You can do all the right things and everything goes wrong. But what's gonna make you stronger is how you respond. Is whether you're gonna give up or whether you're gonna get back up and keep moving on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Everything works out for a reason,
Yeah.
There's always a lesson in everything.
Absolutely, yeah.
So what would you say to anyone that has a dream, has something that they're working on, but they have a fear that it's going to fail?
Well, I would say that they're human. It's like me right now, so that's normal.
Yeah.
So you're always going to have some fear. Everyone has some degree of fear, But the way that you mitigate the degrees of fear is by understanding, okay, here are my strengths, here are my weaknesses, here are the sacrifices that I'm willing to make to improve on those weaknesses. And then here's what I think is feasible and realistic in regards to a plan to get to where I want to go, So I would say if you attack it from all those areas, I think that your fear is going to go down because the more prepared you are, the less scared you are. That's the way I see it.
I like that. The more prepared you are, the less scared you are. That makes sense.
That's the way I see it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So what's next for you? What's cooking?
So it's funny. A lot of things I'm talking about right now is actually partly from the book that I was planning on writing. To give people a framework of how to think. It's not anything earth-shattering. It's just simple ways. It's like ways to think about things.
Yeah.
How to like control and regulate emotions. There's a quote that I say that I have actually is, "Don't let emotions can be an evil dictator if you do not regulate them." And what I mean by that is if you let emotions rule your life, it can destroy your life. You have to learn how to control them, because emotions aren't reality. Emotions is a feeling. It is a reaction. It can be a reaction to reality. But at the end of the day, you're not measured by how you feel. You're not measured by, what you're thinking. You're measured by what you do, your actions, the results that you drive. That's how you're judged by. If you feel like if you're driving down the road on 75 and you're going, if you think about going 125 miles per hour, but you don't go 125 miles per hour in a 65, you're not getting pulled over. You can think about all these things. But guess what? If you step on that gas and you hit 125 in a 65, you're getting pulled over.
Yeah.
And that's a simple illustration of how, it's people you're judged by, not by what you think, but by what you do. The actions drive outcomes, not feelings, not thoughts can help facilitate, actions, But at the end of the day, it is all about your actions, because that is what people can measure you, and that's what people are going to see you do. You know, you can say whatever you want, but what you do is how you're going to be judged and measured. So that's, I can't remember what the question was, actually.
What you got coming up? What's next?
Oh,
yes.
the book.
Yes.
So that is a part. Like, that's a big part of what I'm talking about in the book that I plan on writing. Haven't figured out the title yet, but it's gonna be a couple hundred pages. I think like 200 pages is what I'm planning on. I have the outline and everything kind of settled. So that's one thing that's next for me. And then the next thing would be, obviously continue to invest in Renaissance Society and make sure it becomes an international brand. There's a lot of things I haven't said yet. I kept kind of quiet, but I'm working on some things.
I know it's been a little cricket.
Yeah, it's been a little cricket. Yeah. But
we're waiting.
yeah. We got some big things working there, okay. And then continuously learn and get educated. And I'm in cybersecurity space, so I want to continue to grow my knowledge in that area. I do plan on getting in the government space at some point. When the time's right. And my long-term goal is I plan on setting myself up to be able to hopefully someday be an ambassador for the United States. So I have some connections in DC, and I'm going to continue to foster those connections, in any way that I can. And down the road, hopefully, I'm in a position to be able to do that, because I like people. I love my country. I want to do what I can to represent the United States. Yeah. And those are some long-term goals. Not all of them, but there are some pretty important ones. Yeah. So
for sure.
Yeah.
So I think the book, that's something that we've talked about a little bit before, helping people with controlling their emotions, your actions, things like that. I feel like the connection between the action and the emotion, though, I can see it in the way that you're talking, how you take out a lot of what emotionally drives people to self-sabotage, things like that. You kind of remove it out of the equation and the way that you think about things, like a very logically oriented, straight to the facts kind of mentality. Did you always have that, or was that something that kind of developed as you got older?
I think I naturally had that because, this is the way I grew up, I was pretty strict household. I grew up in a militaristic type of household.
Really?
Yeah, I would say that definitely has influenced it. But it's when you start to see things around you and you start to question everything. I used to question everything. Like, why? Sometimes I question two things too much, but I'm just like, I'm questioning. And then I started thinking about it, like, you know what? This starts to all make sense now, It all starts to make sense. And that's really kind of like helped shape how I am, I've always been that. I think I've always been that way. Of just say, hey, like, and having emotions is normal. You accept it, okay, but don't let it dictate your life. Don't let it destroy your life. There's nothing wrong with having emotions. It's just that when it's influencing you to make the bad decision or the wrong decision, that's where it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to make sure I don't do that.
Yeah.
No one's perfect. It can happen. I've certainly screwed up plenty of times in my life.
Yeah.
So, but I always have to remind myself, hey, wake up, slap yourself, like, don't do that. That's not smart. Like, you feel like you want to, but think about what's going to happen after this, know? So, yeah.
It's wise of you to be an observer of your thoughts, because I think that's unfortunately like a large part of the reason why a lot of people struggle to do that is they're not like cognitively aware of the fact that they do control their thoughts. I actually feel like that was the biggest thing that kind of completely altered my life when I was in college, and I heard the quote, "You're not your thoughts, you're the thinker of your thoughts," and I was like, wow, I've thought I was the victim of my emotions and my programming for so long, and I didn't realize that I get to actively choose my thoughts, and that if there's a thought that I have reoccurring, it's just a habitual thought. And so I think it's awesome that you're able to do all of this, because you're aware of the fact that you are observing your thoughts and in control of your thoughts, and you get to direct where your mind goes, which directs the way that you take action in your life. Did you always kind of have that awareness to be like in the observer, or was that something that occurred to you later?
Honestly, I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I would like to say that I've always been this way, but I'm not exactly sure about that one.
Yeah.
About always being observant, I used to always question things.
Yeah, but I mean observant of yourself.
Oh, myself?
Yeah, like to be aware of the fact that, like, to even be able to say, like, to snap yourself out of it and think about this in a different way. Like, not everybody has that.
Yeah. I would say since probably maybe high school, sure. Probably since high school, but beyond that or before that, probably not. I don't know. I don't remember that part.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know that, like, you want to write the book, and it's giving, like, a very self-improvement, like, help your life kind of book.
It's more about actually, and that what I was talking about earlier, that's a section of the book.
Okay.
So this really actually came from actually someone, I won't say their names, I want to protect their privacy. I had somebody that's close to me that was in a pretty difficult place, you know, and I've been there before, but they were in a difficult place in their life. They weren't very happy, you know. They didn't like the situation they were in. I won't say exactly what it is, but point is they weren't happy, and they didn't have direction. They didn't feel like they didn't understand where they're going to go from where they're at right now. Everything was looking bad. So and then I talked to this person. I started asking them questions and like, hey, so first I totally understand where you're coming from. I've been there before. Why do you feel this way? Do you know why? Can you answer that? You know? Yeah. Okay. Do you know what would make you happy? Have you visualized that? Do you understand what that is? The lifestyle you want to live. Do you want to have a family? Do you want to live in a house? What job do you want to work? You know? Have you thought about all the costs of these things? Have you thought about what you're willing to sacrifice to get these things? Because not everybody's willing to sacrifice as much as, you know, the person next to them. You know, not everyone's willing to go to school for 15 years, go be a doctor, wherever how long it takes.
It's a sacrifice.
Yeah, it's a sacrifice, you know. There's trade-offs. So I started asking all these questions. I started writing them down. And, you know, if someone tells me, like, oh, well, nothing makes you happy, I'll like, well, you haven't done enough. You haven't experienced enough life. Yeah. You know, but that person wasn't that way. But I started writing down all the things that make me happy. I was like, okay, well, you know, you tell me this is the lifestyle you want to live, you know, and this is about what it's going to cost. Have you looked at what would pay for that? You know, like, no, I just thought about going, you know, back to school. Like, why are you doing that? Where you would take more debt, you know? Because it doesn't sound like that's something you want to do anyways, based on what you told me. And you know, like, you know, I told this person, like, you know what? Here's how I know how you are because I know you well, this person well, and I'm like, you like to learn, you like to think. You know, there isn't a problem you can't solve. So you have a very technical mind. You need to go to study this, get this certification, get some experience, and I guarantee you'll get a job. I'll help you with your resume. I'll do everything. I spent time working on his resume, get some experience. He works at this company, and in less than 12 months, guy's making 6 figures.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So you're like, let me outline this process in a book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
awesome.
it's just putting it away.
Have you ever considered being a life coach? Because I do life coaching. I'll tell you.
Yeah, I'm
not
very
bad
well.
at that formula.
Yeah. No,
that's a good method.
Yeah, like a life coach is a very good thing.
Yeah.
You know, the way I see it is it's just a way of just giving people. It's about giving people that are feeling lost a structured way to find themselves, but doing it in a very realistic way.
Yeah.
Because someone says, "Oh, I want the huge house, I want all this," but they're never willing to sacrifice the time, you know, to do the job that it takes you to do it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to tell people some harsh realities, like, "Hey, like I get you want this nice life, but dude, an art major is not going to get you there. More than likely, you know, most likely it's not. You know, there's always miracles happen, but I'm just saying, like,
I think,
you know,
I have a personal belief that if you feel that strongly about it, and you really, really feel like it's your calling, then it can take you anywhere you want it to go. But if you're just going through the motions of it and you want a big payout, I actually think that's sometimes harder. At least to sustain. Like, even if you go into this, like, okay, this is a super high-paying job, I hate it, but it's going to get me to X, Y, Z. It's going to take me 10 years. Not everybody can endure that, you know?
That's true.
So, but I have a faith that if you're truly living aligned and it's what you love and what you're passionate about and it's good for you and it's good for the world, there's no reason why you shouldn't and wouldn't reap the rewards of that.
Well, that just shows that you're willing to make the sacrifice of the odds not being on your side for the chance of it to happen. So that means, you check the box. Yeah. You're willing to make the sacrifice. So go for it. You know?
I have definitely chosen the sacrifice of people not understanding.
Yeah.
People not understanding the vision always.
Yeah.
But I know that like the vision was given to me, not everyone else. So it's okay.
And look, and this is going back to the lesson. Sometimes life just sucks sometimes. There's people that have done those things and done it all right, still fail. They still fail of maybe being the one, I don't know, I'm just using an example, being like the top coach or something, but they may have won, though, in that journey because the skill sets that they've taken has helped them be successful in something completely unimaginable. They would have never thought. If you just keep grinding, working hard, and if you're willing to make that sacrifice, where you have a loss in one area, it can turn into a win in another area.
Yeah, that's so true. Sometimes the skills just transfer.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah.
I've definitely noticed that in a lot of ways in my personal life, for sure.
Yeah, well, let me ask you a question now.
Okay.
In closing.
Switch it out.
Let me ask you a question.
Okay, wait. Before we close, I'm gonna ask you one more question.
All right. Okay. Fine.
You can ask me first.
So.
Wait, guys. Sorry, I have to change that.
When you're ready, Romeo.
All right, 3, 2.
Actually, you ask your question. Okay.
What?
My question to you was, have you ever made it through without editing in a podcast?
That was going to be the question.
That was really going to be the question. And the funny thing is, as I asked that question, we had to stop for a moment.
Battery died.
So I was like, damn it.
That's hilarious. I can't believe that was going to be your question.
That really wasn't my question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well then how about this? For actual closing,
Okay.
I have 2 questions.
All right, go ahead.
I want to hear the worst advice you ever heard.
Worst advice I've ever heard. Honestly, that's a tough one. The worst advice I've ever heard. Maybe just I would say stay complacent or stay happy where you're at. That's probably the worst advice I've heard. And that's my
just be happy where you're at.
Yeah, just be happy where you're at,
complacent.
and I don't you should always be. I don't mean that in a way of just like being thankful. You should always be thankful.
Right.
But I'm talking about if someone has so much potential, but they just choose to not act on that potential.
Don't settle.
Yeah, I basically settling. That's the worst advice I've probably heard.
Yeah. That makes sense. Okay. Second question.
Yeah.
Best advice you've ever heard.
I'm gonna bring this one up, and I said it earlier.
That's okay.
It's very cliche, but if you fail the plan, then you plan to fail.
Okay.
That's probably the best I've ever heard. I love that.
And then I guess technically I'm going to ask you a third question.
Okay.
The third question is there anything that you would want our listeners to hear that you don't feel like you got a chance to share today?
Is there anything?
Is there anything else that was on your heart?
Let's see here. No, I think that's it. I was trying to think of something funny to say, and I failed.
You can laugh about the battery failure. So close to no edits necessary. That's okay.
Yeah.
Well, Gabe, it was a pleasure having you on the show.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Kayli. Appreciate it.
We've been planning this for a year,
Yeah.
at least.
Yeah, actually, I remember walking up to you and said December 6th.
Yeah.
And you're like, what do you mean? Like, that's when we'll do the podcast.
Yeah. It's been
We're
in
day early.
process.
Look at that.
Yeah, we're day early. Look at us.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you so much. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and listening to this episode of Initial Impressions. I appreciate all of your views, your likes, and subscribes. And if this episode impacted you, if it benefited you, if you think that it could benefit anyone else, please send it their way. As always, I hope that you are leaving more at peace than you came.